They changed the font so you could see the font easier. That glow to tell you which box you're clicked in. A web designer does all that. Even the button that you click on to submit it. When you hover over that and it gives you a kind of effect, a nice little hover effect to let you know you can click on it. That's all a web designer's job. The web developer comes in, and what happens after you click the button? Yeah? After you click the button, it grabs all your information, sends it off to the server, zips it around the world. That's what the web developer does. But up to that point, the web designer is in control. So the web designer designs the form, makes it nice and easy to fill out, and makes you want to fill it out, and allows you to find the buttons really easily. The web developer handles everything that happens after that. Alright? So usability and UI, or user interface, play a huge role in web design, and we'll be discussing more about that over the coming lessons. So what does a web designer need? Well, you're in luck, because a web designer really, for a starting web designer, you only need two things. The first thing you're going to need is a good web browser. Now notice here, I'm saying a good web browser. So Google Chrome is a great web browser. Google Chrome is a fantastic web browser. It's got the largest market share, so if your designs if your design works perfectly on Google Chrome, it works perfectly on the most amount of people who are using the internet. They're most likely using Google Chrome, so you know it's going to look good in their window. And Google Chrome is the browser we're going to be using in this course. Now, because these languages actually update and evolve. These are actual kind of descriptive languages is what HTML is kind of turning into. And because it does evolve, because the way we use it does change over time, the stuff that we're using in this course can be a bit futuristic. Yeah, so if you're working on one of our designs, so say if we're making a floating 3D cube that's spinning in space in one of the later lessons, which we will do, if that's not working for you and you're checking in Firefox or Safari or Internet Explorer, open it up in Chrome, because it could be just the browser. Yeah, so that's just something to take a note of. Now, we are going to be using Google Chrome, but I'm just going to let you know that Mozilla Firefox is also a fantastic browser. It's great for web developers. Yeah, we've also got Safari, and Safari is also a great browser. It's got all the modern features you can want. It's got box shadows, it's got hover effects, it's got everything you need. But it's really a user browser. It's not great for developers. Like if you want to see what's going on behind a web page, you have to go through a whole bunch of settings to turn it on and everything. Google Chrome, Mozilla Firefox make it very easy for you to see what is lying beneath the website. Now, a lot of you might be noticing that there's a browser missing up there, but it's not really missing because it's a terrible browser. It is not a good browser, and that is Internet Explorer. We do not use Internet Explorer. Yes, so anyone on this course, you cannot use Internet Explorer for any of this course. In fact, it's so bad that barely any of your designs will actually work. It is that bad. It is absolutely terrible. It is holding back the advancement of the internet. Internet Explorer should only be used to download the other browsers. Yeah? Internet Explorer is a terrible browser. They're not meant to be. I'll tell you the quick story in a nutshell. Their browsers used to cost money. Yeah? Could you imagine? Back in the day, you had to actually pay for a web browser. Now, what happened was we had this time known as the browser wars. And after the browser wars, after all the dust had settled, IE came out on top. Internet Explorer was the #1 browser. It came out for free, and everyone was using it. And it was fantastic. Internet Explorer 6 was the best browser the world had ever seen. But then they got lazy. They were at the top of the chain, and they didn't have to do anything. So then Chrome and Mozilla came out and started operating their browser to what is known as web standards. Yeah, so you'll learn more about web standards in the future. But Internet Explorer does not follow these. And you will start to notice these as you become better web designers, that all the fixes that you are doing is for Internet Explorer. If you want to say this image here, see this little shadow effect? Yeah? Very easy to do in Google Chrome, Mozilla Firefox, Safari. We just add a box shadow. You can't do it to Internet Explorer. Internet Explorer pretty much breaks when you do it. So you're constantly adding fixes. They're holding back the advancement of the web. Alright, so that's my little rant about Internet Explorer. We're going to leave it there. So what you need so far is just Google Chrome. The other thing you need is a plain text editor. Alright, a plain text editor. So if you're on a Windows machine, you're going to download this plain text editor known as Notepad++. If you're on a Mac machine, if you're using a Mac, well then you're going to have to download Text Wrangler. Now there'll be links to all these applications in the notes as well, so you'll be able to get them there as well. If you're on Linux, you should be able to get Text Wrangler as well, if not Notepad++. Text Wrangler should also be a Linux distribution as well. The reason why I want you to use these, it's like if I was teaching you to drive. Yeah, if you wanted to learn to drive a car, would it be any use if you just learn how to drive an automatic. Because I know here in Ireland, if you learn how to drive an automatic car, you get to drive a car, but you are not allowed to drive a manual. Your license only says you can drive an automatic car. Whereas if you get your license in a manual car, it means you can drive pretty much any car. You can drive any manual car, and by default, you can also drive an automatic car as well. So that's why I want you to use these Notepad++ and Text Wrangler. These are like the manual version of these text editors. If you use Atom, if you use Dreamweaver, if you use Sublime, they're filling in so much stuff that you're not thinking about that one day you want to do something different and you won't know what it is. So that's all you need. So far, all you need is Google Chrome and a text editor, which is Notepad++ or Text Wrangler. All right, and there will be links in the notes for those. So the internet and the World Wide Web. So where is the internet? What is the World Wide Web? And how is information sent over the internet? So where is the internet? Well, first of all, the internet is actually more of a concept than a physical thing. There is no the internet. It's actually just someone else's computer. Now, I know it's heartbreakingly confusing, but you're now in the know. But here's another head scratcher. Yeah, so there is no internet, it's just another computer. The net and the web are not the same thing. All right, are you aware of this? So we use the terms the internet and the web interchangeably. But if you want to be web designers, you should at least understand the difference between the two. So if you're not aware of these concepts, just try to stay with me here. So the internet is our massive global network of networks, while the World Wide Web is actually a model built on top of the internet, and it uses something called HTTP, or the Hypertext Transfer Protocol, to share information between devices that are connected through the internet. Now, you've actually come across HTTP before. If you've ever seen a complete URL, that's Uniform Resource Locator, like the one in this example here. It's the full URL for the Shaw Academy homepage. So you'll notice that when you go to your browser and you want to go to Shaw Academy, you probably just type shawacademy.com. Some of you might even type www.shawacademy.com. Well, this is the full address. Now, the browser does a bunch of trickery so that you don't have to type everything beforehand, but let's just break this down. You first start with the protocol, HTTP. So you're going to connect to the internet using the Hypertext Transfer Protocol. You then have a server or a place where this website is held. It's on a box someplace because it's just a computer connected to another computer. That's the server machine. And then at the very end, you've got the location of the resource, the location of the specific file that you are looking to get up on your screen. So then, what is the cloud? Yeah? So then what is the cloud? Well, the cloud actually was just developed as a new name for the internet. It's actually more of a marketing term than anything. But nowadays, the cloud is becoming a term that encompasses both the internet and all the protocols that use it. So it's the internet and everything you use the internet for. So in this slide, you can see some common internet-enabled devices there on the left. All right. On the right, I've got just a few of the protocols that are used to transfer information over the internet. Now, there they are just flashing up there. So a protocol is a set of rules, conventions, and data structure that governs how computers and other network devices exchange information over a network. All right. So each of these different ones here, each of these have their own set of rules, conventions, and data structure that is tailored to their functions. So let's just quickly look at this. So up here we've got the File Transfer Protocol. Yeah, the File Transfer Protocol. That's been around since the late 70s. And that's how people originally started really transferring information, big bunches of information through over the internet. The next one down, HTTP, the very, very important protocol, because that's how we do our web design. It's how we send our designs to the billions of people connected to the internet, the Hypertext Transfer Protocol. The next one down, you have VoIP, Voice over Internet Protocol. And if any of you have ever gotten a call from us here at Shaw Academy, or if anyone from Shaw Academy calls you, we're calling you through the internet. We're calling you through using the Voice over Internet Protocol so that we can call you at your local rates. And then this one down here, POP. Yeah? Does anyone remember the good old days of the smartphone where you couldn't just enter your email address and password and it would just set it up automatically for you? In the early days of the smartphone or the phone that could connect to the internet, you had to enter your email address manually, yeah? So, and it used to ask you, are you using POP or are you using SMTP? The Post Office Protocol or the Simple Mail Transfer Protocol. So there's a way for us to transfer emails throughout the internet, yeah? So there's an example of just a few of the protocols. Now there's loads of these. Now that thing there in the center, that beautiful, beautiful looking image there in the center, that right there is the internet. That there is a trace map of the internet from all the way back in 2003. Alright, so that's a trace map of the internet all the way back in 2003. Now the reason why I'm using the one from 2003 is because I think that's when the internet looked most beautiful. You can pull these up later, so afterwards you can go onto Google Chrome and just type map of the internet and go to images, because now I think the last time they mapped it was 2014, and it's just a big glowing ball of color. In 2012 it was just a big golden globe, but here you can really start to see all the threads, you can see all the big data points. You know, it almost looks like a galaxy system, but now it just looks like one giant star, one giant self-contained star. So you'll be able to see that later on. So what I would like you to do, so why do I have this slide here? So how does this all fit together? Well, what you're going to do is you're going to imagine the internet as a network of roads. The devices there on the left as what the roads are connecting, and the protocols as the modes of transport, okay? So your neighborhood, your neighborhood is like one network. You can leave your house and you can take your local road to all the other houses in your area, like a nice little local network. But then, when remote and distant neighborhoods are all linked together by, say, a highway, we have something that kind of looks like an internet. A big network of networks. And the World Wide Web is just one of the many ways that information is transferred over the internet. It uses the Hypertext Transfer Protocol to transfer documents written in HTML, the Hypertext Markup Language. Alright, so now, does that make a little bit more sense to you? The difference between, so we've got the internet, which is just the ability to connect devices to other devices, and then we've got all the protocols that allow us to transfer information from device to device. That's how all that works. Alright, so how did the web come to be? So this is Sir Tim Berners-Lee. He is the creator of the World Wide Web. He created it back in 1989 in CERN. It just so happened that Sir Timothy was working at CERN in the 1980s, and the sharing of information and collaboration between scientists is still important in all of its fields. And sometimes they're on the opposite side of the world to each other, yeah? And even beyond. Now, email and FTP had already been invented back in the 80s, and this did wonders for allowing people to communicate and collaborate projects with each other. But Tim had an idea for a better system. Because at this time, what you would do is you'd read a paper, you'd go down to the resources, then you'd see, this was written by Mr. X in Tennessee. Then you'd have to email Mr. X in Tennessee, and he'd get onto his publisher, and the publisher would then FTP you the book. A very roundabout system to get further information. So Tim was sitting there in CERN, and he wondered, what if you could just click the text and be brought to its straight to the relevant source? What if he could choose to link all the relevant and important information in his own work to their sources or further places of information? Now, it was with this in mind that he would develop a language that has had one of the greatest impacts on global society since the invention of the printing press. He called this new language HTML, and it was officially released to the world in 1991. So I'm actually older than the World Wide Web. I'm a couple of years older than the World Wide Web. I'm sure a lot of people here are older than the World Wide Web. Sorry, but one more thing before we go in and take a look at some actual HTML is this here. HTTP request and response. So what's going to happen? So before I actually open up Google Chrome and show you how it's going to work, basically, this is how you get information to your computer. So you type an address into your computer, say shawacademy.com, and you click go. Now in a simple form, the browser connects to the internet and initiates contact with the server and requests some information. In this case, you're looking for the Shaw Academy homepage. Right? And a server is just like a server is just a machine that performs services for another machine. Remember, there is no internet. It's just someone else's computer. Sometimes it's not a computer. It's just actually a box that's been well cooled and kept dust free and making sure there's no spiders living inside there. That's how the internet is actually. That's how you get web pages. They're all stored on these big data centers. So that's what happens. So you send the request. Now, if the server can find the file you're looking for, it will send it back to you. It will display in your browser, and then the connection is terminated. Now, That's really simplified, all right? So that's very simplified. There's actually a few things going on. There's a few bouncing back and forth. There's acknowledgement and request, AK and request, all this kind of stuff. But in simple terms, that is how it works. So you type a URL in, you click go, it goes to the server. It says, hey server, I'm looking for this file. If the server has it, it will send it back to you. If it doesn't, it sends you back something known as a 404, or it sends you back one of the errors. If it's got a problem, send you back what it looks for. It will give you an error. Yeah, and we've all seen loads of these errors popping up, like 404 errors, file not found. That's exactly what it is, actually, guys. 404, file not found. That is the error you get when you type in a bad email, a bad web address. So I'm just going to navigate to the Shaw Academy homepage. It's connected to the server. It's found the index.php file, and it's sent it back to me, and it's there on my browser there right now. So that was what was going on in the back end. Let's take a look underneath here. So what I can do very nicely in Chrome is I can right-click on this page, and I have this thing down here called Inspect, yeah? So I can inspect things on this page. I'm going to click on that. Now, I get all of this. So guys, you scared yet? Yeah? I want you guys to take a good look at this, because you have no idea how quickly you're actually going to pick up this language. It's great fun. So, here is HTML. This is all HTML here, yeah? Very, very nice, very, very, very big and colorful, and all these nested elements and indented and everything like that. This over here is CSS. So that's how we define all our stylings, and this is the structure of the page. Alright, so let me just show you again. So what I'm going to do is, say if I want to inspect this bit of text here, well, I just hover over it, I right click, and I click inspect. Now let me just click on these three little lines up here. So guys, for anyone very new to the web, 3 dots, 3 lines, also known as the hamburger menu, it's known as a menu, yeah? So if you see 3 vertical dots or 3 vertical lines, or 3 lines in a row, well then it usually means a menu. I'm going to dock this to the bottom, so I can do both at the same time. There we go. So I'll put that down there attached to the page. Alright, so if I do that again, so I'll right click up here, I'll right click that bit of text, I'll click inspect. Now you can see here, I've highlighted that, and you can even see what's clicking. So if we ignore all the code around it, we can see quite clearly, are you ready to start learning today? Are you ready to start learning today? Yeah, and it's wrapped in brackets and everything like that. So let's take a quick look. Are you ready to start learning today? Let's inspect this one. Here's something fun, guys. Are you ready to start learning today? Double click. Yes, I am. Smiley face. And there we go. See how easy it is to start web design? Very easy. So, we can do stuff like that. Now, this isn't changing the Shaw Academy homepage. You can do this on any site you want. You can go to Google and make it yourself. Because remember, if you remember how that works, that you connect, you ask the server for a resource, the server then gives you that resource. They're literally giving you all the files. The files are now sitting on your computer. And then the connection is terminated. So, if people are wondering, you're going to break Shaw Academy's site? No, because what happens when I click refresh? Well, what happens when I click refresh? Well, then my browser connects to the server. It says that I'm looking for shawacademy.php, and it sends me back that file. So it's kind of like an Etch-a-Sketch, except you don't have to shake your computer to get back to a starting point. You can just click the refresh. It's going to send me back the fresh files again, and then we're back. Yeah? So perfect. Alright, so now that you've been nice and thoroughly scared by how HTML actually looks, let's go in and break this down. Let's go down and break this down so we can start to see the patterns in how this language is actually developed. Alright, so the hypertext markup language. So what is hypertext and what is a markup language? Well, when we split up this acronym, the HTML, hypertext markup language, we have these two phrases, we have these two parts. We've got the hypertext, and the hypertext is this ability to create links with published materials on the internet. Yeah? So that was the first part of Tim Berners-Lee great idea. The idea of hypertext, being able to have text that you're able to click on it and be brought to someplace else. And then we've got this other part known as the markup language. Now, a markup language uses a series of tags to structure documents. And tags are used from everything from adding images and links to providing semantic or meaningful information to parts of your website. So HTML files are simply documents with text structured in a certain way that a browser can render it, just like that. Alright, so let's discuss tags for a second. So HTML tags allow us to define certain elements on a page. And when browsers recognize these tags, they will render the elements accordingly. So tags normally come in pairs like this. Now they normally come in pairs like this. This one here is actually a paragraph tag. So the first tag in the pair is known as the opening tag, and the second tag is known as the closing tag. And you can see in this example that the opening tag is made up of the tag's reference name, in this case P for paragraph, enclosed in these angle brackets in the less than and greater than sign. Yeah? And then the makeup of a closing tag is very similar, except the tag's reference name has a / before it. Now the tags on this screen, like I said, are paragraph tags, and we saw them on line 9 in the example below. So let's take a quick look at that again. So we can see here, so on line 9 here, if you see line 9 here, we can see that we've got some paragraph tags here. So we've got, this is a paragraph wrapped in P tags. Above it on line 8, there's text wrapped in H1 tags, known as our heading 1 tags, yeah? So, can anyone find some more tags for me on this page? So now that you know the tags are tag's reference name wrapped in angle brackets, can you find any other tags on this page for me? Excellent, excellent, excellent. That's body, very good. You've got the head tags, excellent. The title tags, perfect. The HTML tags, excellent guys, fantastic. That was much quicker than I expected there. Fantastic guys, that was excellent. Now, a few people might be wondering why I'm not seeing the doc type up here. Now, that up there is actually not a tag. That one up there is the doc type declaration. That's actually what's classified as what's known as an instruction. Now, there's only one of these that you have to worry about, and that is this thing up here. Basically, that sits at the very top of your document, and that tells the browser what you are writing, yeah? So that one up here actually tells the browser that this is going to be a document written in HTML. This doc type is a HTML document. Now this doc type in particular actually says the version that we're writing in as well. So when you write a doc type that just looks just like that, you are telling the browser that you're writing in HTML version 5. And you are very, very lucky that we're in this generation. Very, very lucky you're in this generation of web design, because that's what tells the browser you're writing in the current form of HTML. Very quickly, let's just see, are we writing HTML version 5 up here? Doc type HTML, yeah, HTML version 5. I can see Show Academy is written in HTML5 as well. But let's first here, DOC, TYPE, HTML4. Let's just take a look at the last version's doc type. Now, when I first had to do this, I had to remember these. You had to memorize these things, and they were so annoying why they had to be so confusing. So, there guys, what I'm highlighting there, that's the doc type for the last one, yeah? So doc type is a HTML4 doc type. And as you can imagine, you had to remember that domain name there. // W3C --DTD space HTML4. Oh my lord, it was so annoying. Anyway guys, you don't have to worry about that, because we're now in the 5th version of the language, which is quite simply up here, ! doc type HTML. You're done. Perfect. Alright, so I think that's that. So we got the HTML tags, yep. We've got the head tags, we've got the body tags, we've got the title tags. Now I'm going to show you some more about nesting and about opening and closing now in a second. But do you notice all this space here, yeah? Can we notice how the relationship of how this document goes, yeah? So I wish you could see my hands, because then I'd be able to show you much easier. But let me just try to explain this. You see the HTML, yeah? So we got HTML and we got HTML. You'll notice that everything else is indented by at least one, because everything in here is a descendant of HTML, so it's nested as such. We see you've got HTML. Inside the HTML, we've got the head tags, yeah? And then inside the head tags, we've got the title tags. So the title tags are a child of head. Head is a child of HTML. Body is a child of HTML. Body is a sibling to head. Heading 1 is a child to body. P is a child to body. Heading 1 and P are siblings. That's how we talk about these things. You can imagine them as a family tree, and it shouldn't actually be that complicated. So heading 1 and P, they're siblings. Yeah, so they don't have gender, so they're just siblings. Body is a parent of heading 1. Heading 1 is a child of body. Heading 1 is a descendant of HTML. Yes, that's the way we can think about it like that, alright? So there you have it. So that's how all that works. So hopefully that's making some sense. Once that gets rendered to a browser, it would actually look something like that. So what happens here is the head is where we hold all information about the page, yeah? So title, so that's just the page title. That's not displayed. Everything we put between the body tags is displayed to the user in their browser window. So if I was to render that document, this is what it would look like in the browser window. Heading 1 and a paragraph. So let's take a quick look. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up I'm on a Windows machine here, so I'm going to have to use Notepad++, N-O-T-E, Pad++. Let me open this up here. Alright, so here is my Notepad++ application. Alright, so here's my Notepad++ application. What I want to do is so if you haven't created a new file, you can go up to File, and just New. Alright, so now we've got a document to work with. So let me start writing this up. The first thing I have to do, so what's the first thing I have to do, guys? Can anyone remember what the first thing I have to do? Excellent, guys. Fantastic. I have to declare my doc type. I want to tell the browser what doc type I'm writing in. So $sign, exclamation mark, DOCTYPE, and then HTML. There we go. Let me zoom in so you can see this a little better. There's my doc type. The next thing I do is I go down to the next line, and I start with my HTML. So I'm going to write my HTML tags, which say that everything between these is going to be the HTML language, HTML. Perfect. I've noticed that every time I open up one of these tags, so if a tag is a closing tag, as an introductory web designer, you want to close them off the minute you open them. Alright, so you create your tag, and then you close it, and then you keep working, because you will start to forget. You will start to forget. Alright, so next thing down. So I've got my HTML. What's the next thing I have? So I'm going to have the head, H-E-A-D. And then right beneath the head, I'll close it off, H-E-A-D. Alright, and now beneath the head, what am I going to put beneath the head then? So underneath the head, where everything I put underneath the head is going to be displayed to the user in their browser window. Very good, guys. So right underneath the head, I've got the body. And just like everything else, I'm going to close it off nice and quickly so I don't forget about it later. I want to add something in the head. Yeah, I'm going to add a title. Yeah, so I'm going to add a title to this. T-I-T-L-E. And I'm going to call this, and I'll close it off straight away. T-I-T-L-E. There we go. And I'm going to call this my first F-I-R-S-T, web page. There we go. Underneath the body, I'm going to add something here. I'm going to add a heading 1, H1. I'm going to say, hello world, H-E-L-L-O, world. H1. There we go. Sorry, I forgot to close that off the minute I opened it. There we go. Hello world. Next one down, I'll write another. So now I'm going to create a heading 2 one. So a subheading, H2. And close that off straight away. Heading 2. This is my first web page. There's my heading 2. Alright. And then right underneath that, I'll put a paragraph. And I'll close that off straight away. Just P tags for paragraph. So heading 2 is that, and paragraph, I hope you find what you are looking for. There we go. So nice and simple. Now, this, guys, is extremely important. So far, I've just written some text, yeah? You can't see anything special. It's actually quite difficult to read because it's all in white. So at the moment, as far as this computer is aware, I've just written some text, yeah? Because this isn't being processed by a browser. This is in my text editor. So I'm going to have to save this as a HTML file. So I'm going to go File. I'm going to go to Save, or Save As. Either one, it doesn't matter. File, Save. Now this is very important. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my desktop, or whatever folder I want to save this in. I'm going to create a new folder, guys, a new folder. The reason I'm doing this, guys, is because it can get quite confusing when you're dealing with all these files later, so it's best to have them all in one development folder so you're not darting all around your computer trying to find them. Now, I'm going to have to save this to something, alright? So what I want to do is I want to save this to something. I'm going to save this as index, I-N-D-E-X, .html. Alright, so that's what I have to do. So to save this as a HTML document, I just have to put the extension .html after it. So I'm calling this document index, I-N-D-E-X, and then I'm going .html. I'll save that. Now guys, very quick, before I click save, take a look at this white text here. Keep an eye on that white text. This is why we use one of these text editors. Watch it. Do you see the burst of color coming through? Yes? Alright, so this the beauty of these text editors, so first of all, guys, I'm sure I should confirm that at the start. You can never write HTML using something like Microsoft Office, yeah? You'd never use something like Microsoft Word to write HTML, or Mac Pages, or any kind of thing that you'd write to write a letter in. You wouldn't use that to write HTML. We want a plain text editor. Because what a plain text editor like Notepad++, it comes with syntax highlighting, because there's different character encodings and all that kind of advanced stuff. But when you write like this and when you save it as a HTML file, it will color code it for you so it's easier to read. So it's not attaching any styling; it's just doing a bit of graphical trickery known as syntax highlighting. So now, at a quick glance at this, I can tell you straight away what is content. Well, that's content. That's content. Content. Where are my tags? Well, everything here is a tag. That's a tag. That's a tag. Tag. Yeah? Where's my doc type? That's in green. Perfect. Yes, this is why we have that. And no, guys, no, none of the applications that I use are paid. Everything that you use on my course, absolutely free. Web design, the internet was created for free. It was released to the world for free under a free license, and even the use of the internet is meant to be free. The use of how your website is delivered is completely neutral. So you get the same speed as Netflix does or Google. You have the exact same speed of them. That's net neutrality law. So everything I teach you on my course is how to start web designing, that anyone can do it. If you have a computer, you can be a web designer. And that's where I start from. Alright, so there we go. So I saved my file. So let's take a look at what this looks like. There it is. Let me just find my work folder. There it is. It's over here. Snap. There we go. Alright, so there's my index.html. Yeah, there's my index.html. I'll double click that to open it. And there it is. Yeah, and there's my first web page. That's the code I've written just there. So let's just quickly break that down. Well, snap over there for me. Thank you. Alright, so let me just zoom in so you can see a little bit better. So we can see here my first web page. Yeah, my first web page. The title is not displaying in the browser window. Yeah, it's not displaying the browser window. It's actually being sucked out and displayed as some information for the tab. Yeah, so Google Chrome is using that to call the tab. So if you have a whole bunch of these open, it's easier to find it. That's where the title of the web page is going. You see down here, Hello World, wrapped up in heading 1, is appearing big and bold and large as a heading 1 would, as your main heading would. The one underneath it, wrapped in heading 2 tags, as your subheading. We can see that there. This is my first web page. From there, you can see it looks like a subheading. It's slightly smaller than the heading 1. And then the next one down here, I've got some paragraph tags, yeah? That paragraph, and you can see here that this is just appearing like a normal paragraph would on a page. So it works just like that. And just in case you didn't see it, that title up there is information about this page. Google Chrome, Firefox, I think Safari uses as well, and will use that title and suck it out here and display it in the tab, yeah? That's just how Google Chrome, Firefox and Safari handle it. Absolutely no requirements to do that. Very important thing to note is that if you want to display anything to the user in this body window, in like anywhere below this menu bar line, anywhere in this white space, you are going to want to put it between the body tags, okay? So there we have it. There we have it. So now just a few more notes on HTML, So a lot of people might be wondering, but what about all these spaces? Do I have to worry about spacing? What about capital letters? What about all that? Well, first of all, guys, capitalization does not matter in HTML tags, yeah? So doc type HTML, doing that, or even this, B-O-D. Why? So guys, doesn't actually matter, yeah? Doesn't matter at all. Let me save that. Let me refresh the page. Nothing changes, yeah? So capitalization doesn't matter. Now, convention is with HTML that we wrap our code, that we wrap our tags in lowercase, just simply because it's easier to see, yeah? So you can probably see, it's up to you though, guys, because you guys are the web designers, and I'm not going to restrict you in how you want to write your things. So what some web designers do, well, web designer hackers, you know, people who are hackers who just like to do web design for the fun of it, they'll do stuff like L, yeah, they'll do stuff like that, you know, camel case kind of stuff, very annoying. But if you want to be consistent with your designs, I would recommend going with the recommended approach, which is all your tags in lowercase, yeah, and it does actually make them easier to read. T-I-T-L-E, H-E-A-D, body. Yeah, I've always found it easier. I've tried all the different ways when I was younger. But listen, if you want to try them out, of course you can. If you want to try them out in your own time, making your own projects, try to find your own writing style, perfectly fine. Indentation. Yeah, so all these indentation, do you want to use the tab key? I use the tab key myself. I just hit one tab. If you want to use spaces, absolutely all right. You're going to annoy, if you have to work with someone else and you use the spaces, you're going to annoy them to high heaven doing this the whole time. Yeah, much easier to just hit the tab key. So if you're working alone, absolutely fine to use the spaces. Be careful you don't get hit with a keyboard if you're using spaces though, if you're working in office. Let's see something else here, guys. So I'm able to use these spaces, I'm able to create all these breaks, but is that messing with my document? Let me see. What if I was to do this? What do you think's gonna happen? Alright, so let's save. No change, nothing at all. Yeah, no change to how the document actually outputs on the screen. And this is fantastic for us. A lot of people first when they see this goes, oh, but that's very annoying, how do I add extra space? We can add extra space other ways, but the beauty of this is that we're able to really organize our code to make it easier to read. It gives you so much freedom. So how many spaces you want to put in. If you need to add space so you can split up your code to make it easier to read, that's perfect. What HTML does is it ignores excessive white space, all right? It ignores excessive white space, which is a very important keyword there, is excessive. Yeah, so we'll accept one white space, so you can see here, hello world is accepting that one space there, but it's not going to but any more than one white space in a row, it's going to ignore it, okay? That's something like that. Alright guys, and just before we go, because you will be able to take that straight away to start writing your own web pages, yeah? So let me just save this, let me just refresh. So you'll be able to take that straight away to start styling. If you just copy that exactly, you'll be able to start working away. One more thing I'm going to show you is the image tag. Yeah, so we want to add images. Now images weren't always around, yeah? So in the very first running of the internet, there was no images. So how do we add images? Well, we have the image tag. This is how the image tag looks. IMG. Alright, so that's the image tag, it's just IMG. Now we've got two attributes, yeah? So we've got two things. So you notice here that it's just P wrapped in angle brackets. We can add other stuff in there as well. So for the image, we're going to need a source for the image, SRC, yeah? So we need to find the source of the image first. And we also need to provide something else which is known as the alt, ALT, the alt tags. I close that off like that. Now the image is a self-closing tag, yeah? So something just very quickly to note here, guys. So to notice here the way I've got a heading 1, yeah? So I start my heading 1, and then I type some content, and then I close it off to say that everything between these tags is my heading 1. And then underneath that I've got my heading 2, and everything between the opening and closing heading 2 tags is my heading 2. And then I got my paragraph. Now the image, if we go down to image, there's nothing for the image to wrap. Because the location of the image, all the data is going to be held inside here. So there's no need to have a closing tag there, yeah? Because there is nothing to wrap, so there wouldn't be a point of it. So let's just find an image on the web. Let me find one of my favorite images, which is the ASDF image. I want to do an internet. So let me just grab this, images. So where are you? I want to do an internet. There we go. I'm going to do an internet. So I'm just going to find an image on the web. I'm going to click view the image. Alright, so there's the image now, coming up. Again, I can right-click on an image. So I can right-click on an image, and this time I'm going to copy the image address, yeah? So everything on the internet has got an actual address. You can go to any point in the internet. So if you're looking at a web page and you see an icon, that icon has got its own address. That's how it's gone there, because someone had to type in the address of that icon. So I had to say, this icon is here. This is what you're going to use to display it. So this image here has got an address. So if I right-click, and I copy the image address, yeah, copy the image address, and I can paste that here into the source. The source of this image is that image's address. So there we go, paste. So there's the image, HTTPS, the Secure Hypertext Transfer Protocol, and then there's the server, media.giphy.com. It's then sitting inside a folder called media. It's then sitting inside another folder that sits inside media called this long character here, and the name of this actual image, the file name for this actual image is giphy.gif. Yeah, so it's GIF image. That's how we add the source. Let me just go back here. And then the alt, so then the alt tags, alt means alternative, yeah? So back in the early days of the internet, if any of you remember dial-up, what I used to do is I used to turn off images because they'd be slowing down my browsing. So if I was looking for cheats for the Sega Mega Drive, for Sonic the Hedgehog of the Sega Mega Drive, or I was looking to skip a few levels to get the password codes to the Toy Story game, again on the Sega Mega Drive, great game, I'd turn off the images because I was just looking for the cheat codes that could be given to me in text format. So I turn it off, and what you would do is you provide alternate text. So let me just quickly grab this. Alt is ASDF image, that's what I call it, IMAGE. I'll refresh this, so I've saved my document, going to refresh the page, and there we have it. So now I've also got an image on the page as well, yeah? So perfect, so you can have great fun trying to mess around with that as well. So that's just basic HTML. Now, let's see what happens if I break this link. So say if this was a broken link first of all. Let me just remove that. Save. Let me refresh. See here, ASDF image, yeah? ASDF image. Alt means alternate. So you can see here, ASDF image. So it actually lets me know that there should be an image there. So if it's broken, because I'm sure you've come across these before, guys. I'm sure you've come across these before if I save this now. Whoop. See that? See that little broken image icon? You should never have those on your page. They're very bad for search engine optimization. That's climbing the ranks of Google, all that kind of stuff. You should never have something that just looks like that. If that happens on your page, it should always be accompanied by, "This is a funny GIF." Sorry, that's a better description. So what that would do is that if the image somehow broke or was taken down, the user loses the image, so they don't get to see it, but they also get to see what should be there. Yeah? They should be able to get to see what is there. And can anyone think of another good reason to have, this is a funny GIF. Can anyone think of another great reason why we have to include an alt? Screen readers, guys. If you remember, you don't have to have full sight. You don't have to have the power of sight to navigate through the internet. The internet is meant to be for everyone, and that is something a huge part of the HTML5 spec is really trying to get in there. That the HTML5 is very important to. If you're blind, yeah, if you're blind and you're on a page, what happens is that your computer will read it out to you. You'll have a bit of software there. So if you navigate to this page, it will go, "Hello world. This is my first web page. This is my first web page. I hope what you find what you are looking for." And when they hover over this image, it would read out the alt. It would say, "This is a funny GIF." Yeah? It wouldn't just go, "This is an image." If I leave that alt out altogether, then what the blind person gets, and especially if you have loads of images on the page, it's absolutely horrible for someone who's got a sight disability. When they get to a page that's got some great content on it, but if they've got like 6 images, and they just have their screen reader reading out, "This is an image, this is an image, this is an image," constantly reminding them that they're missing out on something that they can't see, it's not very good. It's not very good. So that's why we always have an alt tag. Alright, so there we go. Just let me grab that image again. So copy image address. There we go. Control V. Save. Refresh. Alright guys, so that's pretty much it. That is pretty much it. So let me just quickly run through the summary. Alright, so far we've covered quite a bit. We've covered what a web designer is and does, how they do it, and just to refresh your memory, a web designer manipulates the HTML and CSS computer languages to create and edit web pages. We covered the differences between the internet and the World Wide Web. Now you have a great piece of information you can throw out at a boring dinner party, how the World Wide Web is just one of the models built on top of the internet, and how it uses HTTP to transfer information between devices connected to the internet. And if you remember, HTTP stands for the Hypertext Transfer Protocol. Alright, now you also heard the background to how the World Wide Web was created and about its amazing creator, Tim Berners-Lee, and the very important language that he developed, HTML, the Hypertext Markup Language. And we also looked at what hypertext is and found out how markup is just a series of tags that are used to structure a web page. And lastly, in the previous slide, in the previous one, we saw how, and then we also saw how a web page is requested and sent from a server to be displayed in a browser window. So, next lesson. In the next lesson is is going to be HTML and CSS. So far we've just touched on HTML. We haven't got to the styling yet. So what if we want to change the font size? What if we want to add a background color? What if we want to make everything centered on the page? So guys, I'll see you next class. We're going to start styling web pages. But until then, have a very good morning, very good afternoon, a very good evening, and a very good night, everybody.